Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and what we have for you today is our review of the LG C1, LG's flagship 2021 OLED TV. Well, you have the G1 with the Evo OLED panel as well, but that's like their super flagship. This is the one that most of you guys are probably going to be gunning to get. LG has one model lower than this called the B1, and this is the C1. We have the 55-inch variant with us for review, and here's the long story short. If you're looking to get on the OLED bandwagon, if you have the LG C9 or the C10, you can skip this one. I mean, you have a pretty good OLED with you already, but if you're someone that's contemplating whether to get on the OLED bandwagon, you can definitely consider this TV. It is absolutely fantastic with its performance, which we are going to dive into. But if you want the short version of this review, it's a great TV for content consumption. It's a great TV for gaming. The sound is okay, and the UI is redefined or redesigned, or it runs on LG's new WebOS, which has changed after a really long time. So we're going to get into all those details. And of course, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we upload a new video. Now, as always, let's quickly dive into our Calman analysis, and boy, oh boy, are we really excited to tell you what we found with this TV. I mean, just look at these numbers. Let's kick things off with the peak brightness, which if you look at this peak luminance versus window size, you can see that the current reading says 128, but that is at the full 100% mark. But if you look at the first half of the graph, which is from the 1% window, 2% window, 5% window, all the way closer to the 10% window, you can see that it's crossing the 700 nits mark. Now, this TV has a setting where you can actually go and control the peak brightness and set it to high if you want, and I highly recommend going and doing that, especially if you really want those punchy highlights when it comes to HDR content, because when you do that, it is going to tell the TV, hey, go crazy and give the best brightness that you can, which is reflective in what we've seen in our Calman analysis. So yes, this TV crosses the 700 nits mark in its absolute peak brightness. As you can see in the peak luminance sustainability as well, it is crossing the 700. It's very close to the 750 nits mark. So this TV can get really bright. Now, when we're talking about the brightness, let's talk about one of the cons which you may have heard about, is the fact that this TV doesn't get very bright when it comes to SDR content. Now, if you look at the dynamic range graph out here, you will see that it has a peak luminance of 127.9 nits, and this is because in SDR you really don't need to go beyond the 120 or 130 nits of peak brightness. Remember, SDR content is mastered in 100 nits, and anything over and above that is to compensate for lighting in the room. So in this case, a lot of people I have heard that have picked up, let's say, the C10 also talk about the fact that SDR content looks a little dimmer, and there's an easy solution to this. One is if you have a few curtains, if the room is really bright like this one where we're shooting this video, you can draw some curtains, make the room slightly darker, and it will help with that slightly darker looking image that you see. You can also play around with the settings, and for the LG C1, I found that leaving it on vivid for some everyday SDR content like your news and TV shows, you get punchy colors also, and it does look a little brighter than the other presets. So that's also something that you may want to consider when it comes to SDR content. But overall, all the numbers that we're seeing right now are actually very good. So moving on to the next thing now, you can see in our color checker analysis, we have a fantastic average delta error of 1.4. Remember, it is impossible. Even in the write-up of this analysis, it tells us that getting a delta error closer to 1 or less than 1 is not possible, and here we have a delta error of 1.4. This is in SDR using the cinema preset. So if you're going to consume content, know that the cinema preset is the best option for your movies and you know, anything that you're going to watch that is cinematic in nature, that's not stuff like your news, for example, or you know, your soap opera shows that you will watch using your set-top box. If you're going to watch movies from OTT platforms, you may want to leave this on the cinema preset. Now, we did use the expert for bright room in SDR and saw that the average delta error went up, but then again, I think it was trying to compensate for the lighting in the room to make the colors look like they should. So if you can control the lighting in your room, you're very good with the cinema preset. Even in a bright room, if you can draw the curtains a little bit to create, you know, a little bit of darkness around the display, you should be getting some very good color reproductions from this TV. Moving over to the grayscale tracking, look at it. Even at the 100% mark, the average delta error is closer to 2, and at the 30% mark, the average delta error is close to 1. Some fantastic numbers that we are seeing out here. Even when you look at the color gamut coverage in Rec 709, all the dots are hitting their mark or very close to it, which is again very good. Moving over to the grayscale tracking, again this is out of the box for the cinema preset. You can see that the red, green and blue colors are at the 100 mark, at the midline mark, all the way almost still a little over 40, and remember between 40 and 50 is where most TVs start to trail away, and the fact that it's almost at par out here without any form of calibration, mind you, at this point is actually extremely good. Even in the color match HDR you can see that we have an average delta error of 1.6, so that is also something that is very good, especially when you are consuming content. So how does all of this translate into real world use when you're actually going to consume content on this TV? Now remember, the LG C1 supports Dolby Vision, HDR10 and HLG. It also has Dolby Vision IQ, and if you want, you're going to have to go into the settings. Sometimes the OLED backlighting might not be accessible, and that's probably because it's on an eco mode, which you can go into the settings and change if you really want to pump up the OLED brightness, which is the backlighting, to 100%. So that's just something to keep in mind, which we went and did change in the settings and do. So coming to Dolby Vision content, we consumed a lot of content from Netflix. We also consumed a lot of content from the Apple TV app, and let me tell you that the experience is just sublime. I mean, from the colors to the black levels to the brightness, it is all really punchy and super immersive. I mean, there is nothing wrong that I can say about this TV, except for the fact that if you're someone like me that doesn't like motion smoothing, just go into the settings and switch it off, because you can actually enjoy content the way it is meant to be. Another good thing about this TV is that it's AI mode for both audio and video works really well to change the settings of the TV based on the content you're consuming. So if you're someone that doesn't want to keep switching between settings, we are going to get to switching of settings in the SDR content consumption of this TV, because it's important there. But when it comes to HDR, you could just leave the AI picture settings on in the settings and you could just forget about it and know that you're going to get the best possible settings the TV has to offer. Even in HDR content from Prime Videos like The Grand Tour and Jack Ryan, we found an extremely good experience. Of course, when it comes to the presets, we could change it from movie to standard and the other presets available even in HDR content, and honestly cinema worked the best of them all for all forms of HDR content that we consume. So I would highly recommend you leave it on that and forget about it. Now moving over to SDR content, look at a show like Young Sheldon, which has these really vibrant punchy colors, and for some reason on the cinema preset, even though you had the warm tone to it, they kind of looked slightly duller than they should, and or maybe I'm just spoiled for making this show look a little more vibrant on some other TV. So what you can do is actually go and change the picture preset to vivid, because this is where you will actually get those punchy colors, and it does not affect skin tones in any bad way whatsoever, like we've seen on so many other TVs with a vivid profile. So the vivid profile on this TV works well, and it does bring out a lot of accentuated colors for a lot of SDR content if that's how you like watching it. For your everyday set-top box content consumption, I think standard is a great preset, and if you are going to watch movies in SDR, like again Spider-Man Homecoming is a great example where we left it on cinema, and you can see that you do get some really good colors. Now one more thing to note is that in this SDR content of Spider-Man Homecoming, there are a lot of TVs where we've seen that while he's climbing the Washington Monument, the sun is shining on him so brightly that his webbing designs detail get lost quite a few times, and there's something we've accepted on a lot of TVs. But out here, there are sequences where that is very clearly visible, which is very good, because that means there is very good retention of details on this panel. Once again, we use the cinema preset for consuming the movie content that we did on this TV. Even if you're going to watch videos on YouTube, you are going to have a great time. Moving over to gaming. Now this is the quintessential gaming TV if there ever was and is one, because all 4 HDMI ports are HDMI 2.1, with one of them supporting enhanced audio return channel in case you decide to invest in a Dolby Atmos home theater. So while we have TVs like Sony's X90J that we reviewed that had only 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, or even the TCL C825 which we reviewed recently, this one has all 4. So if you have a Dolby Atmos enabled soundbar with enhanced audio return channel and a PS5 and an Xbox Series X and an NVIDIA 30 series GPU powered laptop or PC, you can take advantage of all 4 ports with HDMI 2.1 with all these devices, and I'm really jealous of you because you have all 4 of these at your disposal. But having said that, the connectivity options are absolutely sublime, and LG has been doing this since the days of the C9 and it continues to do so, and I just don't know why other manufacturers are not offering at least some of their TVs with all 4 HDMI 2.1 options. It's just great to have it out here. Okay, I digress to the ports. Coming back to gaming now, this TV has a really cool game bar that appears at the bottom, which gives you a lot of information. And I think LG has probably realized in the last year or so that, hey, a lot of gamers are using this TV. So when you press the settings button, rather than getting the traditional settings on the left side of the screen, what you are getting is this really funky, cool settings at the bottom of the TV, which is not only showing you the current frame rate, whether low input lag is on, whether VRR is enabled or not. Of course, because we have a PS5 to test the game, we could not get VRR right now, but we did get all the other settings. And let's start with Dirt 5. Now, this is a beautiful game in HDR, and if I just tell you once again how beautiful this panel is, I'm going to repeat myself. So just look at this game bar. It gave me the information that the game has changed to 120 Hertz, and it's showing me 120 Hertz on this little bar. So I know that I'm getting a higher frame rate performance from this game by simply pressing one button on the remote control. There is no need for me to go into settings and change to HDMI ultra deep color like I had to in older LG TVs, because out here, the minute it recognized the PS5, I got a notification saying ultra HD deep color is already active because of the source. And as you can see, this TV with the PlayStation 5 supports RGB, HDR, 4K and 120 Hertz. So coming back to that Dirt 5 example, as you can see, that game bar at the bottom was telling me that I was getting 120 Hertz because that's one of the few games on the PS5 that supports the high refresh rate. Another game that supports the high refresh rate in a slightly different way is Ratchet and Clank, because that also has a 120 Hertz mode, but what it's actually giving you is 40 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second, and the logic for that is too elaborate to explain right now. But once again, as you can see, that game bar showed me that 120 Hertz mode was on and active on this TV, which is brilliant. All the games we played, be it even Spider-Man, Miles Morales and Ghost of Tsushima, these 4 games are showing you the footage mixed and matched on screen right now, but I can tell you that the gaming experience is absolutely sublime. From the details in the blacks in Spider-Man's suit when he's swinging, to the action, to the input lag, to even Ghost of Tsushima really looks like a piece of art on this television. If you're into gaming, if you have the budget, if you're looking for a one-time investment to get a great gaming experience on an absolutely awesome panel, then you can definitely check this TV out. It is not going to disappoint you. So what has changed? Now let's talk about something that I was a little disappointed with, is the sound output of this TV. Now yes, this TV costs $1.5 lakh for the 55-inch variant as of recording this review, as a price listed on Amazon.in. You have 40 watts of sound output with a 2.2 channel setup, and even though it does have a 20 watt subwoofer as per the spec sheet, it does lack a lot of bass, which is not that great. I mean, the sound is very clear, so if you're going to watch TV late at night at low volumes, know that the vocals are very clear in dialogues, and even the background score is very easily audible. So the speakers are extremely clear. Even on loud volumes, you can actually make out what's being said. Of course, the speakers don't do justice to a big room like this, which is a living room, but if you have a 10 by 12 or 12 by 14 bedroom, then the speakers on this TV get really loud enough, and if you're okay with that, then you really don't need to invest in a soundbar. But if you're going to put it in a living room like this, you should invest in a really nice Dolby Atmos enabled soundbar. Now let's move over to two things that LG has really changed, which is the user interface and the remote control. We'll start off with the user interface. Now, if you remember from our review of the LG C10 at the beginning of this year, we saw that LG still had its old UI where you have this cards kind of a layout at the bottom of the screen, and once you hover over it with the magic remote, you get the second layer which shows you the content. LG has shifted that and brought about a UI that occupies the entire screen. It's kind of trying to take on the Google TV UI we've seen on Sony TVs or even Xiaomi's patch wall, which is giving you this content first experience. And once you've logged into the services you've subscribed to on this TV, you are getting that content first experience, which is absolutely good for 90% of the time. The 10% where I didn't like it, I'm going to get to that. But you do get all your apps very easily laid out. The home dashboard is also there along with your input sources. Everything has its own position, and it's a horizontal scroll, which makes it really easy to navigate, especially when you consider the fact that you have the magic remote that you can just swipe towards the side you want the navigation scroll to move towards. So I like the new UI. But what I don't like is I'm someone that really jumps between Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, Hotstar and some other subscription services, and when I press the home button on the older UI, those cards just pop up at the bottom of the screen, so I don't need to leave the app I'm looking at immediately. But out here it kind of takes you back to this home screen, and that experience was a little different for me. I'm not going to say it's bad because it's very subjective whether you like it or not, but it was different for me. The rest of the UI, like the settings and all, have all changed and improved for the better. It doesn't have that colorful childish like colors to it. It has this nice gray color palette to it. Even the pointer feels a little more mature, if I can say so, rather than this little pinkish colored icon that we had moving around the screen when you were using the Magic Remote on the previous generation TV. So the UI has matured in a lot of ways. And another thing that has changed is of course the remote control. Now this is LG's new remote control that you get with the C1 when you buy the TV, and this is the older remote control. This is from my own LG TV, and as you can see, a lot of things have changed for the better. Now while this remote does feel a lot more weighty at the bottom because you're going to hold it and you can move it around like the Magic Wand, this one feels weighty at the bottom but not as much, and once you use it enough you realize that that's kind of a good thing because the weight distribution has improved in a lot of ways and the TVs come on. Another thing which is very good is that the volume button and the channel buttons out here were quite separate, but out here they are one single toggle. Again, a change which is for the better. It also has more squarish edges rather than the rounded edges, and I like the new design. You also have more OTT hotkeys and slightly bigger buttons at the bottom, which includes Netflix, Prime Videos, Disney Plus, Hotstar. You also get dedicated buttons for the Google Assistant, Amazon Alexa, and a voice button. Out here you just had the voice button, and to bring on Alexa you had to press and hold the Amazon Prime Video button. So there are these changes which are for the better. Two improvements I wish LG still made in their TVs. The first is the tracking wheel out here. Now it is slightly more it is slightly deeper, slightly more indented than the older one, because the older one was very clearly a wheel that could only move up and down. This one kind of gives you the impression that it can move in all four directions, but it does not. It only moves up and down, not left and right, and I feel that's kind of a bit of a missed opportunity considering how horizontal LG's TV's UI is as well. So that I think is a miss, and maybe in a future update LG can, because sometimes you don't want to use the Magic Remote to navigate, you just want to be able to use the track ball if it ever evolves into that. Right now it's just a scrolling wheel and it's textured, so it gives you this nice click every time you roll it. Another thing that I miss is that the older remote had a play and pause button, and it worked across all OTT platforms, be it Netflix, Prime Video, YouTube, and even Apple TV. And the fact that I need to use the directional pad and this roller in the middle to pause a movie when I'm watching it is kind of I miss the play and pause button, to be honest. Overall, the remote control is a move in the right direction. If maybe next year LG makes this track wheel into a ball and adds at least the play and pause button back, it would be great. The remote control also has an NFC chip out here, as you can see, with a little N up front. So if you want to cast something onto the TV, you can simply tap your smartphone to the remote control and be able to cast onto the TV, which is also a great option. Now moving over to the final thing, which is going to take the least amount of time, is the build and design of the TV. Now, of all the footage you have seen, you are seeing an older stand. This is a stand of the B9 on this TV. This TV actually comes with a longer, sleeker styled tabletop stand, which is available on the C9 and even on the C10. The C9 is actually a better example because the C10 footage that we have is of the 48-inch variant, which comes with a stand similar to this one. Anyways, the point is, this is not the stand that you're going to get with the TV. This is just a stand that we got for the duration of this review. The TV once again is extremely slim. I mean, just look at it. How slim can a TV be? This is as slim as a coin, and of course it does get slightly thicker at the bottom where all the components are housed, but nonetheless, if you wall mount this TV, trust me, it is going to look exquisite on your wall. It also has the ambient mode where you can have photos and pictures on the screen, but trust me, with an OLED you don't want to do that. You want to switch this TV off when you are not using it, just to consume that backlight and not overuse it. So let's answer whether you should buy this TV or not. Oh, before that, connectivity options: 4 HDMI ports, 3 USB ports, and the slew of every other port that you can want on a TV is out here. It's very rich when it comes to connectivity options, including optical audio, so there is nothing that you need to worry about when it comes to connectivity options. Now, a lot of people will wonder and have asked me in the comment sections of YouTube whether you should go in for the LG or the TCL C825 or the Sony X90J, and honestly the answer is very dependent on two things: your budget and what you're looking for. So let's stick with 55 inches for now. The 55-inch TCL C825 is at about 1,07,000, 1,08,000 rupees, and it's a great TV for the price. It can get brighter than the LG in a brightly lit room. It gets less reflective than this, but it does not come close to the color reproduction of this TV, the contrast of this TV, the black levels of this TV, and this is just a very good panel. Also in terms of UI, the TCL one gives a lackluster experience. This one has a better experience. So if you want to save that 50,000 rupees or 40,000 rupees based on where this TV is priced right now, it's at about 1,50,000 rupees, then yes, you can consider the TCL C825, because that's a great option for 40,000 rupees less. Again, I'm comparing prices which are on Amazon India right now. You have the Sony X90J, which is an LED backlit TV. Again, it has slightly better reflection handling and glare handling than this TV. The brightness can be at par, and of course Sony's TV is also very accurate when it comes to color reproduction. That is an LED backlit TV with dimming zones, which means in a dark room you aren't going to get those inky blacks and that contrast ratio that you can get on this TV. But Sony's tri-luminous display can make content look amazing. So if you are still skeptical about getting on the OLED bandwagon, then the X90J, which we reviewed, is also another great choice. But if you want the creme de la creme experience, those previous two TVs, the Sony and the TCL that I mentioned, only come with two HDMI 2.1 ports. The TCL supports VRR, but I've been hearing a lot of you guys complain about some issues with the VRR. That's not something we could test because we don't have a VRR. We don't have a PC or an Xbox Series X to test it. We just have the PS5. The X90J, as of recording this, is yet to receive an update for the VRR, but this one comes with NVIDIA G-Sync, FreeSync, variable refresh rate, 4K at 120 Hz, all 4 HDMI 2.1 ports out of the box. It's a great TV for gaming. The UI has evolved also to give you that gamer-like aesthetic, and if you're going to get the 48-inch variant of this TV to put on a desk and sit really close to play games on, it's great. If you have the C9 or the B9 or the C10 or the B10, then you really don't need to upgrade to this. You have a great TV that's going to last you for a couple of years. And if you are getting the C10 at a respectably lower price point for the 55-inch variant than this one, then you can definitely consider that, because the performance of that TV is still fantastic today. The LG C1 is a brilliant TV to get. Yes, there is the risk of burn-in, which is reducing. A lot of companies are implementing technologies to help reduce the risk of burn-in on OLED televisions, and I can see the same happening out here. If you vary the content you use, I'm someone that games on an OLED TV a lot, and I can tell you that even if I play, let's say, a game like Far Cry for 30 hours and in the middle just watch TV for a little bit while I'm eating food, even if it's for half an hour, it's more than enough of a variation to ensure that you are saving yourself from something like burn-in. A lot of you have messaged me saying you guys played Apex Legends for something like 500 hours and didn't do anything else on an OLED TV and saw the effects of burn-in. Well, yeah, that's extreme and it's overkill, and you will see burn-in on that. But if you vary the content enough at good intervals, this TV should be able to last you for many, many years before you decide to go in for an upgrade. So there you have it, guys. That was our review of LG's C1 2021 OLED TV. We also have the G1 Evo, which we would really love to take a look at, because this is the first year where the panels between the C1 and the G1 are different. Between the C10 and the G10, the panel was the same last year, and we really hope we get a chance to experience that TV as well. As always, you can let us know what you thought of this video in the comment section below, and for more from the world of technology, you can subscribe to the channel. We will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.